from the beginning. I mean, how did you all get into your finance?
Well, gosh, 30 years ago, I was working in a gym, earning about £90 a week, enjoying it, but realising, I'm not going to be able to buy a house, or in fact, I think I managed to buy a car for £200, I think, and so I knew it wasn't a real career where I was, and I was just fortunate in a way. I saw an advert for the Prudential, and I don't know if you're old enough, Haggai, but nearly 20, 30 years ago, there was something called a man from the Pru, which used to go around people's houses and knocking on doors and collecting the people's savings at 50 pence a week or a couple of pounds here and there. And so that's how I started. And then there were some changes in that company, and sort of identified that I would be better going down the financial consultancy route rather than just being an agent and collecting money. So I went down that route, and so I was there for about 2.5 years, and I turned up late for a meeting. We had a 9 a.m. meeting, and I got there at 2 minutes past, and so my manager sent me home, and he said, "You're late." And I said, "Well, the traffic was bad," and he said, it doesn't matter, you're late, go home." And I thought, I don't think I'm made for this, being employed like that. And so somebody that I used to work with had been asking me to join his company for a while. So I got back in my car, drove to the other person's office and said, "Okay, I'll come and work with you now," because I didn't agree with what happened. And so that was 27, 28 years ago. I left one meeting with one employer, drove to another one, had a chat, and he said, "You're welcome to join me at any time," because I've worked with him in the past. And so basically I was taken on as an independent advisor with his company. And then in 2002, he retired. And then myself and a colleague, we took the business over, and we grew the business. We started to do really well in terms of expansion. And then 2008 crisis hit, and we went from 14 employees and advisors down to 4. And then we built it back slowly. We built it back in a different manner now, which is a little bit more solid and stable. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. Started with nothing. When I first started, the guy that owned the business, he just said, "Right, if you want some clients, there's a filing cabinet of people there that we've dealt with in the past." He said, "Just go through the filing cabinet," and that's what I had to do. Started with 0.
Wow.
And just ringing people up out of the blue and saying, you've dealt with Ideal before, would you like to have a meeting, see if I can help in any way? And that was 27 years ago, and I'm still looking after 1 or 2 of those people that I rang from that meeting, from that start date. So yeah, so it's been an interesting journey, and yeah.
That's amazing. And you're here now.
Pardon?
And you're here now.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. So what have you learned from where you are now? What are some of the things that you would do the same and things that you would change from starting up?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that's important is I think you've got to be good at what you do. I think it's a combination of being good technically, especially in my profession. You've got to be good technically. So you've got to know what you're doing, and you've got to be able to demonstrate that so people trust you and want to work with you. And then I think the other thing which is really important is just to look after people and give a good level of service, because I think, I get really frustrated when yesterday I was trying to buy some flights, and the flights were £450, and then you go onto the website and you don't realise you've then got to pay for seats, and you've got to pay for bags, and do you want this? And then you're at £560. And to me, it's just, I find that frustrating. And I think if you were just honest up front and you did what you said you was going to do, I found that by working like that, I've managed to keep a client bank that over many, many years has given me back so much because of the fact that I've sold into that, and I've tried to work by those principles. So I think being good at what you do, looking after people, being easy to do business with, being available, I think is a big factor these days. I think a lot of businesses maybe rely too much on technology when really a human being can do that job better, and use technology for what technology is good at, which is behind the scenes making things smoother and efficient and maybe lowering your costs. But I think in my profession, when it comes to dealing with people face to face, you can't use technology to replace that, especially when you're dealing with people's finances and personal issues that they have around that. So I think get good at what you do, look after people, be easy to do business with and be available, and then you've got to get organised. Have a goal, know what you're working towards, know how you measure that success, what does success look like, and how are you on track, and then focus on that, because I think what you focus on and what you give attention to, that's what grows. Yeah. So.
Amazing. So at the moment, you're running a £1 million business, and one of the things that people may not realise is that obviously you've had to start from somewhere. What would you say to somebody who's thinking about taking that step of faith, or they're not really sure about how to go about, jumping or starting up your own business and or they're struggling?
Yeah. I think it's important to make sure that your business plan has got some viability to it. Some people are struggling and it's not their fault. It's just the business model is not right. Maybe the pricing structure is not right. The product's not in demand. It may be something that they're really interested in, but there's only 3 or 4 other people that are interested in it. So I think it's important to know, and market research is good for this, is do I have a product that people want? Do I have a solution to people's problems? And then if it does, who are these people? Where do they hang out? How can I connect to their world and then communicate in terms of marketing, how I can solve that problem? And added that up to like I say, the business plan. Do the numbers work?
Amazing. That's really good. So in terms of what would you tell the younger version of yourself when you were starting up to, what advice would you give yourself?
Okay, I think that'd go back to the business model when I started was really, it's what I call the farmer and the hunter scenario. It sort of goes back to the caveman days where the man would go out, find something to feed his family with, hunt it down, kill it, bring it back, feed the family. But then 8 hours later, the family were hungry again. So he'd have to go out, do it all again. And that was sort of my profession for 10 or 15 years. It was a case of find a client, see what they needed, help them do that and be paid for it, then go find another client. About 8 years ago, we changed that to what I call a farming business model, which is rather than have to find new clients all the time, the farming model is you have a plot of land and you feed that land, you put fertilizer into that land, you tend that land, you sow the seeds, the right seeds into that land, and then you trust that in time that land will keep reproducing back and with the fruit and the crops, etc. And so what I'm talking about there is our business model. We moved from finding new clients into our sort of payment model worked on an ongoing basis, where we've changed to charging clients to help them achieve their goals over a period of years. So what happens then is, rather than starting on April the 6th with 0 and having to do it all again every year, we started with a plot of land that kept feeding us back. And that's made a massive difference. But then that's where it comes in, is that you've got to sort of keep putting the fertilizer in there, which is what I call really the customer service. And so we now have a business that we have a good idea of what the income's going to be before we start. And then anything we generate adds on top of that. And so it's a much more stable business model, and it doesn't require us to start at zero again every Monday morning and just to keep redoing it, because you can't, it's hard to build on that then if you're starting at zero every year.
Fantastic. Thank you. Hi guys, thanks for joining, by the way. Kerry, Kathy, the list goes on, I see you. Thanks for tuning in. Feel free to just ask questions on the comment box if you've got any questions for Brian, as he's obviously talking about his business and sharing some of these inspirational tips. Okay, so what are the three things that you think people should remember?
Treat people right. It always comes back to you. You reap what you sow, and sometimes what you rewarded doesn't necessarily come back from where you've sown it. But the principle of you reap what you sow, I'm a big believer in that. And if you do the right things will happen to you over time. Stay focused and organised. Know what you're trying to achieve. Know how to measure that and how to correct it. I think a big one as well is surround yourself with the right people. I know I've got certain strengths, but I also know I've got certain weaknesses as well. And I think I'm really fortunate in a way, in the fact that the staff that I have supporting me are fantastic. Their strengths are my weaknesses. They can't do what I can do, but I can't do what they do anywhere near as well as them. And so I think acknowledging that you're not good at everything, and if you are expanding and recruiting, is you want to find people with those skills that fit that job role, and maybe plug your weaknesses a little bit. And then I think the last thing is life is short. Make sure you're enjoying what you're doing. I think if you're not enjoying it, I mean, I'm not saying everybody enjoys the job, and there are times when I don't like what I do. It's hard and it's frustrating at times, but I think you've got to have some level of passion in there. So yeah, that's really in a nutshell, I think.
Oh wow! Thank you so much for that. Right, guys. Really amazing wisdom there. Make sure you take notes. Feel free to get questions, inbox us, send us some messages. Brian, have you got a copy of the book by any chance?
Oh yes, 1 second.
Right, so Brian is basically going to get this book. John, plug away. Where can people find your book?
Yeah, I think if you go on now, because this is a second version of the book. There is an original version on Amazon, which is it's only about £5 on Amazon, but it is an older version. I ran out of paperbacks, so this is a newer version, and you can get this off our website, idealfinancialmanagement.co.uk. And so yeah, I wrote this for. Because over time, my sort of client bank has sort of developed into a niche of mainly dealing with wealthy people, to be honest. And so I was finding I was turning away clients because I just couldn't fit them in. So I thought what I'd do is I've put 28 years of financial planning sort of knowledge into a book here. And I thought, well, you can buy that for a tenner. And if you follow the principles in that, you are 95% there of making the most of your money and making the right decisions. So,
talking about your clients, actually, Brian, if you correct me if I'm wrong, So any of my friends who are watching this, obviously people watching this, I think Brian works with 250k.
Yeah, the client bank, the clients I work with, yeah, generally our guy, they have sort of a £250,000 or more to invest, or assets that they want us to look after. So that's the type of clientele we work with. So.
So if you need to know how to get in touch with Brian, I know some of you will definitely be over that. So Brian is, I can definitely vouch for him. He's definitely the man to see, particularly in terms of how to invest in wisely. You can definitely watch me or go and see Brian through idealfinancialmanagement.co.uk. And obviously you can put a message on there, and I'll make sure Brian can put in touch with you once we services. In very good hands. Fantastic. Thank you so much for the time, Brian.
No, you're welcome, my guy.
I really appreciate it. Yeah. Any last words before I let you go?
No, just give Vanessa a hug and make sure you look after that little baby of yours as well. And yeah, no, it's good to speak to you, and I hope, you know, the little wisdom I have, I hope there's something of benefit there for your listeners.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the time.
Okay.
God bless you.
Thank you.